Hi there, art nerds. Happy holidays. Today I'm going to show you two different ways to draw a really cute cartoony version of one of Santa's elves. So this is a great opportunity for you to really put your imagination to use. I'm going to show you some basic techniques, and then I want you guys to let your imagination run wild. So I am starting by using colored lead to do what's known as an underdrawing. I am constructing the figure. This is going to make it easier for me to draw later on because I'm not going to be trying to figure out where the hand's going to go, where the leg's going to go. I figure all of that out at this stage now. So I started by drawing a circle for the head, a oblong-ish or oval-ish torso, kind of like a flour sack. I'm drawing the present that my little elf is going to be holding, and then I draw some sticks for the arms and the legs. I also draw a line going down vertically and a line going across horizontally to help me divide the face and help me place the elf ears. So I have a lot of tutorials on constructive figure drawing here on the channel. So if you guys are interested in learning more about drawing people, whether they're cartoony or more realistic, I've got those for you down in the description as well as in the cards. So for the face, I subdivided the face across the eyes. I drew what I call the middle eye or the third eye, and that's not going to get used in the later drawing, but it does help me place the actual eyes because your eyes are spaced about 1 eye width apart. If you're drawing in a more realistic style, your face actually is about 5 eye widths apart. So for the hands, at this point in time, I'm just kind of drawing in mitten shapes just to help me place the hands. And for the feet, I just drew in triangular shapes. Now I'm just kind of cleaning up my underdrawing, cleaning up my sketch. And speaking of, I'll have a template down in the description below if you want to draw on top of it and design your own elf. And I'll also have a scan of the girl elf I drew in case you guys want to just color it. Merry Christmas. I hope you guys enjoy these. So now I'm kind of fleshing things out now that I have everything basically placed, and I'm drawing cylinders for the arms and the legs. The leg cylinders are very tapered. They're very wide at the top where it meets the hip, and then they become really narrow as they meet the feet. This is just a stylization. You can choose to draw your legs however you want. I have drawn a lot of cute cartoony characters over the years, so I have kind of a variety of things I do that'll kind of adjust. Think of it like sliders in a video game. I'm just sliding the scalars to what I think is cute. So around the eyes, I drew a couple of circles. This is going to allow me to place the eyebrows a little bit later on. Alright, so this template is going to be available to download and print down in the description. What I recommend you do is actually flip it over and draw on the back of the paper because this template does print a little bit darker, and it'll also allow you to adjust certain things. So now we've got our basic figure sketched in, it's time to add in some details. So for this illustration, I wanted something really cute and very anime inspired, so I'm going whole hog anime with this. So I'm going to give my elf really large eyes, and inside the eyes I'm actually going to draw like a little star shiny because that's just going to up the cute value. And I also want this to be as Christmassy as possible since she is one of Santa's elves. So I'm also going to draw a lot of bells and holly and a lot of frills. So I'm just adjusting her face shape a little bit, and I'm drawing the pupil inside the eye, and then I'm drawing the little star-shaped shiny. I'm rounding her cheeks even more because it's going to add to the cuteness. And then I'm adding little blush marks. And I'm using a non-photo blue pencil for my underdrawing because it allows me to ink on top of it. And then I can take it into my favorite digital graphics program and adjust the contrast so that you no longer see the non-photo blue. So now I've started sketching in her hair, and when I'm drawing hair, I'm breaking it down into blocks. So I always think of it as going from foreground to background. So we start with the bangs and anything else that might go in front of the face or in front of the ears. And then I work towards the back of the hair, or what would be covered up by the face, covered up by the head, covered up by the ears. I'm also sketching in a hat. I mean, she's an elf, and elves often wear hats. This one's a little bit more clown inspired and sticks straight up. And I sketched in the main body of her hair. So she's going to have long, wavy hair. So I did that pretty simply. And at this point, I'm just sketching everything in, figuring out where I want everything to go before I tighten up any of the details. So I put some holly berries on her hat, and then I sketched in the basic shape of her dress, and I'm tightening up and refining the package shape. I'm also refining her hands. So at this point, I'm still keeping the fingers kind of simple and the hands kind of simple. The hands are basically mitten shapes that I subdivide into 4 fingers and a thumb. And I'm also breaking her dress shape down into scallops. And then I'm going to draw ruffles on the bottom of the dress. So since she's an elf, I wanted to give her elf shoes. So I did the silly little pointed shoes that you typically see on elves in different cartoons and different movies. And I did the same for the collar. It's kind of a rounded Peter Pan collar, but it goes up on the sides. I thought that really added to the elf-like appearance. Now I'm adding little eyelets to the top part of her dress. Eyelets are like the holes in the fabric. And I'm tightening up the details on her shoes. They're kind of cowboy boot inspired since they divot down. And I'm also sketching in the basics for ruffles. And you can do that just doing a zigzaggy line and then kind of alternating which areas of the ruffles go in and which areas go out. I'm also breaking down her hair into smaller masses, smaller clumps of hair. And the more you practice drawing hair from photo reference, like hairstyling books or hair reference online that's usually designed to be taken to a hairdresser, the better you're going to get at drawing hair. So it's all just about putting in the practice and drawing things realistically so you can get better at drawing things in a cartoony way. So here is our basic sketch of our girl elf. Next, I'm going to ink her, and I'm going to ink her with one of my favorite brush pens, the Kuretake Fudego Kochi. You can find these on Amazon, but what I like about it is it has a small rubbery brush nib that allows me to get really, really fine lines as well as really nice thick lines. It's really quick to ink with, and once you've got some practice inking with one of these, I don't think you're ever going to want to stop using brush pens for your inking. In fact, I think they're a little bit more economical than, say, technical pens, which is what people usually go for first when they're thinking of like artist pens, because you can get multiple line widths in just one brush pen. So for this, I'm going to take my time, listen to some relaxing music. Inking is really about just kind of getting into the flow and not trying to rush through it too much. You could have like a movie you really like on in the background, just something to kind of vibe out to and enjoy yourself. So some basic inking tips. Usually I ink with a blotter sheet or just a sheet of white printer paper between my hand and the paper. This prevents smearing of the ink. If you're inking on top of pencil, it's going to prevent the pencil from smearing all over the paper as well. That would cover up the illustration. So sometimes when I'm inking for tutorials, I don't always do that. But if I'm inking for myself, I will use a blotter sheet. It also protects the paper from the oils on your hands. So if you're inking something that you're going to watercolor or marker later, it's a great way to just protect your paper further. This is in a really inexpensive Strathmore sketchbook. I'm mostly just inking this for demonstration purposes to show you guys, so I'm not super concerned about that right now. I also tend to ink from front to back. So we started with the holly and now I'm working on, well, I was working on inking the hair because the hair overlaps the face. And then I'm working on the face. I also start on objects or areas that are the most important, that are most likely to catch the viewer's attention, and then work my way to the least important. And the reason I do that is because my hand is still fresh. I do have arthritis problems, so my hand will lock up after a period of time. So I want to use like the best my hand has to offer while I still can. So I'll usually use that for inking hair and faces first, or important details, or maybe things I kind of struggle with, like if I'm inking animals, I might want to ink the animal's face first, that sort of stuff. And I'm using a really light hand when I'm inking her. So the thing about brush pens, especially good brush pens, is the more pressure you apply, the wider a line your pen is going to use. So if you're really heavy-handed like I am when I'm drawing, I have a tendency to really bear down into the paper. With brush pens, I have to kind of hold myself back and think light, feathery thoughts, which is another reason why it's important to kind of control your mood when you're inking. Try to put yourself into at least a relaxed mood, if not in a good mood. I try to avoid inking angry unless, you want that emotion in your piece. I also try to avoid inking when I'm sad because it's just not going to be as light and airy, happy, and bouncy as I might want for something like this. I'm somebody who does have anxiety problems, and I've noticed my hands tend to shake. So if I am inking and my hands start shaking, then it's a good time to take in some deep breaths, release some deep breaths, maybe put on some relaxing music, and just try to chill myself out. And for me, inking is a really relaxing activity because I've done it for a long time, and it's something that I can predict, and it's also something that I enjoy. So often if I'm inking and I've already got anxiety going on, I'll start with an area that's less important, kind of warm myself up, kind of get myself into the zone, and then I can move on to the more important parts. So another inking tip is that lighter objects, like feathers, tend to have a lighter line weight. Heavier objects, like stones or the bottoms of somebody's shoes, would have a heavier or a wider line weight. Objects closer to your light source are going to have a lighter line weight. Objects further away from your light source are going to have a heavier line weight. And using a combination of those two will really help you get some dynamic line weights. So for cartoonier art styles like this one, you can really push and pull the line weight. So you can see there's some areas where there's barely any lines at all, like the blush lines on her cheeks. And then there's some areas like her eyelashes that have a really heavy line weight. So you also probably noticed I worked from the top to the bottom, and that's going to help prevent smearing of the ink or the ink getting all over my hands. So for the ruffle, I'm inking the actual folds in the ruffle first, and then I'm going to go and ink the bottom of the ruffle. And you guys can see I'm kind of alternating like a zigzag almost, which are out and which are in. The out ones are like the curved outward form of the ruffle. The inward ones are kind of the areas where the fabric has gotten kind of pushed back. And I actually have some tutorials on drawing folds and fabrics here on the channel. I've done a few live streams on that. And it's definitely an area worth paying attention to if you want to get better at drawing people. Even if you draw cartoony people, understanding folds and fabrics and even silhouettes will really help you improve how you draw your cartoony people. Alright, so we have this elf inked. She's really pretty cute. But we're not over, this tutorial isn't over just yet. I actually created the template and this tutorial to share with the Art Squad, which is an art club hosted via Zoom by the St. Charles Parish Public Library. So here is a segment that I recorded during Art Squad where I am redrawing my Christmas elf using the template that I'll provide for you guys in the background. And you guys can see I put a piece of white paper on top of it to show you don't just have to turn it over. One of my very smart students turned it over and drew on the back because he said you could see the lines through it, but it wasn't too distracting, which so smart. But you can also tape a piece of clean white paper to the front if you find these lines just a little bit too distracting to work with. If you work digitally and you want to use this as a base, you can also just crank down the opacity to like 20%, create a new layer, and then draw on top of that. So I'm using the same base as you guys can see, and I'm going for still cartoony, still really cute, but a different feel. I'm drawing a male elf this time. And I'm going to give him curlier hair than his female elf counterpart. And I think I decided not to give him a hat because I just didn't have as much room. I'm also drawing with pink lead rather than the blue lead. The pink lead does show up a little bit better. And I frequently use the pink lead if I'm planning on watercoloring or markering on top of something and then inking it later. But I'm using the pink lead here because the webcam I use for Art Squad isn't quite as nuanced as I would like, so it's able to pick up the pink lead a little bit better. So really, you can use this template to draw any kind of elf you can imagine. You can also adjust it a little bit and use it to draw just people if you want to. It's up to you, but really it's all about your imagination and what areas you decide you want to adjust and what areas you want to keep the same. And I'm inking him not because I have any specific plans for him. The template that I printed a little too dark for me to be able to use anything or use him for anything without a lot of adjustments, but I used it as an opportunity to talk a little bit about inking with the Art Squad. So, you know, any opportunity to share and engage and to learn something new is a good opportunity. And if you guys don't live in the St. Charles Parish area, you can form your own art club using Zoom or using Discord, and it's honestly just so nice to be able to hang out and chat and draw with other people, especially since it's not super safe to do that now. But if you do live in St. Charles Parish and you're interested in joining our art club, you can find more information on the St. Charles Parish Library's website. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial on how to draw a cute cartoony Christmas elf, and I hope I'll see you guys again soon with more art and drawing tutorials. Happy holidays, guys!